So I wanted to walk you through how to use the Bitcoin Signal Stacker. This is a dashboard that I created to basically just help people grow their Bitcoin holdings. So whether you're starting with 0.001 or one whole Bitcoin, the goal is exponential growth. The day-to-day price movements, that's the noise, and that's what we're going to take advantage of by using this dashboard. The big picture is the trajectory. Right now, Bitcoin is in a range of like 100K, and it's on the path to get to 1 million and more. So my goal right now is just to accumulate as much as possible before it does get to 1 million. So when it does, you'll be straight. For the average person, I'll say getting to 1 Bitcoin, if you just get 1 Bitcoin, you'll be gold. But the unfortunate part is that most people think that they can get 1 Bitcoin at this point. Because like one of the biggest excuses that I typically hear from people when I tell them about Bitcoin is that the price is too high and they think it's too late. I heard that when Bitcoin was 500, 1,000, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, and so on and so on. The truth is, with an asset that has this type of growth, you're always going to feel like you missed the boat because you're going to be looking at where the price was and where it is now. But really, that's not true. And that's the main reason I created this dashboard, because really you don't need a huge amount of capital. You can start with whatever, say 500. I would say ideally start with 1,000 and then just add small amounts each month. So I've kind of worked out a good formula in terms of like what's a good amount to start with. So what I would say is determine how much you can comfortably afford to invest into Bitcoin, specifically just Bitcoin each month. And then that amount will represent 10% of what you would start with. So as an example, if you could comfortably invest $100 a month, that's 10%. So you would start with, say, $1,000. That would be a good starting amount when you consider how much you can comfortably invest each month. And so from there, within the dashboard, we have these different buckets. You would put 20% in a bucket that we call the external reserve, and then the rest you will put in a bucket that we call the collateral. And so after you execute those allocations, you would just start to follow the signals that the dashboard gives you over time. And literally over time, your Bitcoin stack will grow larger than what you really would expect when you consider how much of your personal money that you allocate versus how much Bitcoin you end up accumulating. And so really, so I'm just going to walk you through a test account this is basically, I follow this routine pretty much every day. So I just open up the dashboard. And so right now you see I have the dashboard open. We'll refresh the data just to see where we're at. And so right now I would open the dashboard and I could see that it's telling me to borrow. And so when you open a dashboard, it's going to give you 7 possible signals. It could tell you to borrow. It could tell you to hold. It could tell you to buy reserves, or it could tell you to buy internal. The next signal will be a cautious hold, pay down debt, or sell collateral. So like I say, right now it's telling me to borrow. So the next thing I would do, I would log into my DeFi protocol. I use Aave. It's a decentralized application that you can connect the cryptocurrency wallet to. And the reason I use Aave is because it's one of the ones that's been around the longest. It's secure, audited, and pretty much one of the leading DeFi lending and borrowing platforms that you can use. And so from there, I connect my crypto wallet. I use one called MetaMask. There's also several other wallets that you could use. MetaMask is one of the ones that's been around the longest. I also use Core or Coinbase wallet. But for this example, I want to walk you through my MetaMask wallet. So I connect my wallet, simply click connect. I select the account. I'm gonna change the account. And so now I connect the account, and bam, you can see my current position for this account. And so these are my buckets that you would look at the protocol and correlate these two. So this bucket here is the borrow side, which is your debt bucket. This side over here is the collateral bucket. This asset inside of the collateral bucket, it would be considered your borrow reserve. And this would be considered your external wallet down here where it says assets to supply. And so when I went to the dashboard, it told me to borrow. Right now, it's telling me to borrow $21.12. So I go to the protocol. Over here, these are the assets in this column that you could borrow against your collateral. And so when you borrow, you want to borrow a stable coin. A stable coin is just you can consider it's pegged 1-to-1. It's basically a dollar that you can use on any of these blockchains. So typically I would either use one called USDC or USDT. These are basically dollars. That's all they are. So it was $21. So it is an interest rate to borrow, just like any other loan. And so I'll select the one with the lowest interest rate. So I just click borrow. I put the amount that it said to borrow in the protocol. It said $21.21. I just call it $22 and just round up. Then I click borrow. And then I would approve the transaction. I would confirm. And the transaction's approved. And now that I've borrowed, that amount shows up in my external reserves bucket down here. Now that $22 is in my external reserve, I would actually want to put it in the internal reserve. So then I click supply, and I put the amount that I'm going to supply, it's the same as that I just borrowed. So I'm going to supply $22, approve. I'm approving the borrow, which is just a transaction that you would do before you actually submit it. Now you can actually supply it. So now I'll supply it to my internal bucket. Confirm. Now that $22 shows up in this external bucket. So that amount in the borrowed reserve increased by $22. And that's pretty much all you got to do. Once you do that, you go back to the dashboard and you would update the user inputs. So you go over here to the user inputs. Your debt increased by $22. And your borrowed reserved increased by $22. Now you've done that, you would just go back to the dashboard, and now you see how it changed. Now it's telling me to hold. I do nothing. And that's pretty much all you have to do. You're done for the day. You can do this as many times as you want throughout the day. My typical routine is I'll do it in the morning, I'll do it in the evening, and I'll do it before I go to bed, just depending on what I have going. So, but the thing is, the more you do it, the faster you're going to grow your Bitcoin holdings. And so essentially the reason why this works is because you're basically doing what 90% of rich and wealthy people do to get rich and wealthy. They leverage debt and they use that debt to buy assets. And as long as the asset appreciates faster than the cost of you borrowing, you're going to compound your growth. And so by consistently following those signals, you're recycling this routine every day. And what you're doing is basically compounding your growth of your asset. And like I say, the more you do it, the faster that your Bitcoin stack will grow. And so that's basically it. That's all I do. I do this. I have multiple positions like this. So each one I will follow that same routine. Open up the dashboard, check the signal, execute the signal, update the dashboard, and refresh. And I'm done for the day. So that's all. It's not no guessing, no emotional trading, just a repeatable system that pretty much steadily grows how much Bitcoin you hold. And that's it.